Hey guys, Mars Thinking here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so today we are moving on to the Vegeta family Super Battle Road team building guide. Just like the Goku one, this category is pretty massive and there's a lot of units to go over. I've, as always, picked some of my top picks as well as honourable mentions. I definitely opened a few more tabs than I did on the Goku family one, so I'm probably going to try and run through this fairly quickly. Maybe we'll skim a few of the units in not as much detail, just because there are so many to go through and I don't want the video to be super long. So if we look at the list of stages here, just like the Goku family one, it's the complete opposite. You always fight Goku family enemies, so that's something to bear in mind. Any units that have bonuses against like extreme types or anything like that, for example, are obviously not going to come into play here. But we will go ahead and have a look. So of course, the first unit we need to talk about is the main leader for the category, LR Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. He is a very good unit. He does get a little bit underrated because overall he's probably not as good as the Goku, and obviously his biggest drawback in Super Battle Road is the fact that he doesn't get defense on his super attack unless you get his 18 key super. So if you find yourself in a situation where you can't get his 18 key super, if you're not using a defensive item, he can potentially take quite a bit of damage. But of course, just like the Goku, he does have a 30% chance to counter super attacks, which if you get the good RNG can come in super handy on Super Battle Road. And he does do a lot of damage. Plus he gets the active skill on turn 4. Most Super Battle Road fights you will see turn 4, so that's a nice little bit of free damage that he can do. So he's your main choice for a lead. He is the highest leader skill Vegeta family leader, so I definitely recommend using him. If you don't have him, obviously he is the best choice for a friend leader. So following up on him, if you don't have him, some of these units are good enough to use on the team anyway, but I kind of picked these ones because they fill that leader slot. So up first we have the STR Margin Vegeta. He gives a 130 to stats and 3 key buff for Vegeta family. He is good. He greatly raises attack and defense on super attacks. Obviously you do need to super with him first if you want him to be as good as he can be defensively. But he picks up 20% attack and defense per key sphere obtained, plus the additional 5% when it's against a Goku family enemy, which you will always be on this stage. So he's getting 25% attack and defense per key sphere, and he creates his own STR orbs. So obviously this guy, if you can pick up a ton of orbs with him, then he can hit really hard as well as being good defensively. And remember that even though he creates STR key orbs, you don't have to pick up STR orbs for his passive. So if you have other orb changers floating around or anything like that, always go for the most orbs even if they're not STR, and then he can be pretty good. The only drawback to him is that with every Margin Vegeta, his main key link is over in a flash, other than obviously Royal Lineage. If you've link leveled a lot of your Vegeta family units, Royal Lineage does become 2 key over 1, and a lot of the units on this team have that, so that will help. And he does have Shattering the Limit, which can help as well depending on the rest of your team building choices. But yeah, even if you're not going to run this guy as the leader, he can be a pretty strong option for the team as well, especially if you want to pair him up with any of the like Super Saiyan 3s, because he has that over in a flash key link. So moving on from him, we have the next potential leader and another unit who benefits from Goku family enemies, the Physical Gallic Gun Vegeta. He only gives 120%, it's obviously a bit lower on the scale in terms of who you want as your leader, but he raises attack and defense on super. This is an infinite stack, so obviously if he additionals or the fight goes on for a bunch of turns, his defense just gets higher and higher. He gets key +1 at the start of each turn and attack 60% when there is a Goku family category enemy. Attack and defense 90% when performing a super, key +6 and defense 60% when HP is 60% or less. So if you do have 60% or less HP, he obviously picks up a nice defensive buff. He does have Prepared for Battle, so the extra key is nice, but he'll probably be pretty much auto-supering in this event anyway, because he gets this extra key for the Goku family enemy. So 90% defense is pretty solid, plus he does raise it on super attack, so he can be fairly decent defensively. Obviously his links overall aren't necessarily the best, like he doesn't have Super Saiyan, he has over 9,000, but other than that, the rest of his links are pretty good for this team. And then we've got the free-to-play option, the Vegeta and Trunks They only have a 77% leader skill, so these guys are kind of like a last resort lead, or if you are free to play. I would imagine even if you're free to play, if you've been playing the game for some amount of times, because the physical Gallic Gun Vegeta and the STR Martian Vegeta have been in the general pool for quite a long time, hopefully you do have one of them, but these guys are kind of like a last resort. They can kind of hold their own, but they're not a support unit like the Goku and Gohan version for Vegeta family. So honestly, if you're not having to use them as your leader, I would probably put them fairly low on the list of like top picks for this team. But I thought I'd throw them in here as well for people who need that free-to-play option. And then we have the Xeno Vegeta. Like, he would be on the list in this video anyway, because he is the Goku counterpart. He's the Vegeta family, 2 key, 30% support. He's got fairly reasonable attack and defense, and he raises his defense infinitely. So this is one of the few times where, for some of the harder events in the game, they released a duel like Goku and Vegeta, who are basically the same card but with slight differences, and the Vegeta is actually better. Because obviously in the longer form events, you want to be stacking up that defense for when you get towards the end, whereas the Goku stacks attack. And now obviously in Super Battle Road, you don't have as much time to build up. So this guy going to be most useful as a third slot floating unit, but bear in mind, even with the stats that he does have and the raising defense on Super, he's not going to be an amazing tank. So he could be a little bit of a liability defensively, but he's obviously going to make everyone else pack that little bit more of a punch. So I do think if you're doing your run and you don't care about using items, you know, you just want to get the stage done, even if you have to use all 8 items, I think he is a good choice for supporting the team. So then moving on, I tried to pick a couple of units of each typing. So you'll see they go in typing order and not necessarily like who they would go well with. We'll start off with the Trunks. We didn't really talk about him in the Prime Battle one. The Time Travelers one. We just kind of glossed over him. But he's very good for Super Battle Road because he gets the extra key and attack and defense when facing 2 or more enemies, which every fight is until you've taken out one of them. So he can be pretty good here. He's definitely not, I don't think, like main rotation worthy kind of level, but as a third slot floater, if you need to fill a gap, he's going to be very good in those early turns, getting that nice big buff. And then by the time you're down to 1 enemy, because he's floating in the third slot, hopefully he's not going to have to take that many attacks after that anyway. So he can be pretty good. Of course, once you lose the second enemy, he gets no defense from his passive and doesn't raise defense on Super or anything like that. So he could be a bit of a defensive liability. So I feel like he's more of a slot filler on the team if you need to pick that final unit. Plus, he technically is free to play, so obviously he's available to everyone. So then we have the LR Vegeta. I think I grabbed a couple of LRs first, which is why these ones aren't in type order. Now, this is an interesting one to talk about for this team because obviously the way you take advantage of his full kit is to have a Goku on the team, preferably from the Majin Buu saga, because I mean, not only do you get those extra parts of his passive, but you literally can't use his active skill or get his partner super if you don't have those. And of course on Vegeta family, funnily enough, you can't run a Goku on this team. But he is still very solid, even without his full passive. And one of the main things is he does raise defense on his 12 key super attack. So you could prioritize only getting his 12 key super. And then because he's an LR with LR stats, and obviously going to get a lot of his links active because he's surrounded by other Vegeta family units, his defense is still going to be pretty good. And he can still deal pretty solid damage. Obviously, if you go for his 18 key super, he's going to deal quite a bit more damage, but not have as much defense. So I do think he can be useful on the team because he is a very powerful card, but you're not taking advantage of his full kit. So I don't know how high I would place him on the tier list for this stage in particular. But if you did pull him, and hey, if you've got him with a couple of dupes at this point, then obviously he's a very powerful unit to bring on this team. So then we have the Super Saiyan 3 Trunks. We talked about him a bit in the Time Travelers video, so I'm not going to go over him in great detail here. Basically, he's a good tank, can stack his defense, and he's a Super Saiyan 3, which will play into some of the units that we talk about later on. So then we have this guy. I feel like people overlook this guy. He got his Easy A when all those other selection of Battlefield units got theirs, and he is actually very good. So he starts off with 90% attack and defense. Then he can get up to 60% extra defense after he's taken 4 attacks. and then he raises attack and defense by 30% for 6 turns, which means this can stack multiple times. So basically, even on the first turn you have this guy out, if he super attacks and then gets hit a couple of times, his defense is actually going to be really, really high. And like a lot of the units we've mentioned, he does have Shattering the Limit, as well as Prepared for Battle, and then of course all the other good Vegeta family links. So this guy will actually be very, very good on the team. Even if you just have him floating in the 3rd slot, it means he always gets to super attack before he gets attacked, so he's going to get that extra little bit of defense. So he's a good choice as well. Then we go on to the Black Mask Saiyan. Again, we talked about him in Time Travelers. The only issue on this team is you do need to have the 3 or more crossover allies if you want to get his full kit, which is an additional 60% attack and medium chance of performing a crit. Now, that's not the most important part about his kit, so it's not super important if it isn't active. He's already got very solid attack and defense, and then of course he does lower attack on super, which is very good for Super Battle Road, and of course he pairs up well with Dark Mask King, who I think is also on this list, so he's a good choice as well. Then we have the Tech Vegeta, who can transform into Majin Vegeta. Obviously you can't use this guy and the AGL EZA one that we mentioned because they have the same name, but this guy is a very solid unit as well. He gets very decent defense. As long as you pick up the 3 orbs, he gets an extra 30% attack and defense when it's his time to attack. So obviously if he gets hit in slot 1 before attacking, he doesn't get that, but that's a very solid boost overall. He also gets an additional defense boost based on how low your HP is. So if you're on low health, he's going to tank even better, which is really good. And then at the start of the fight, when you're on full health, he can hit a little bit harder as well. And then he can transform from the 3rd turn when you're facing only one enemy whose HP is 80% or more. So because the Goku family event is only 2 enemies per fight, if you're going to bring this guy on the team, then your strategy is to literally just focus all of your attacks on one person, and then get to the point where only one person remains and still has 80% or more HP, and then you will get to transform into Majin Vegeta. He's still solid without transforming, but if you're going to bring him, you really want to aim for creating the condition for him to transform every time, because then if you can pick up 6 orbs with him, he not only guards but is also super effective against all types. So once he's transformed, if you can consistently pick up the orbs, then he's going to be an absolute beast on this stage. So then we go on to the Tech Nuka Vegeta. We've talked about him already. This is going to happen in a lot of these videos, of course, as we get towards the end of the guides where we've talked about units already. So we talked about this guy in Movie Heroes, I'm pretty sure. The long and short of it is he's very good because mainly the orb changing. He can create a whole bunch of tech orbs, which is then going to give him a ton of defense. It's going to heal you a lot for free, which is always good in Super Battle Road, and he can hit pretty hard as well, and he has a very solid link set. So this guy, very good. Orb changing, obviously very useful, especially with units like we just mentioned with the Tech Vegeta, so he's going to be a very useful addition to the team as well. Then we have the Bulla. Again, she is one of those units, she's a support unit, and her defense overall is not very good. She only provides attack support to everybody, not defense, and because there's no other Peppy Gals allies on the team, she will only have the 30% built-in chance to dodge, which is still decent, but just bear in mind, if you don't have any items active, if she does take hits, she is going to take quite a lot of damage. Her links aren't that great, but obviously that's offset by the fact that she just provides ki and an attack support. So I think she is probably worth bringing. I wouldn't bring her on the no items run, but like I said, if you're just going to be using items anyway, she can be a useful addition to the team to power up everybody else. So then we have the this Super Saiyan Vegeta. I feel like he's pretty slapped on. He's not the best unit in the world, but the reason he's good for Super Battle Road and the reason he's in this video is for this right here. He has a 50% chance to stun on Super, which is really, really good in Super Battle Road. And his link set is amazing for one of these Vegeta units. He has Fierce Battle, he has Prepared for Battle, and then he has all the other good Vegeta links, including Saiyan Pride. So he is very, very good. He can't take a hit all that well, so again, he's a unit that if you don't have an item active, he can potentially take quite a lot of damage, but the 50-50 shot of stunning an enemy, I think, is probably worth his inclusion on the team. So then we can go on to the Int unit, This is another Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, so of course you can't bring him and the Tech Nuka one that we talked about. I thought I would include him here for people who maybe don't have the Tech one, because obviously he lowers the attack and defense of extreme class enemies, which we don't have any of, and then his high chance to stun the enemy when attacking extreme class enemies, so obviously he doesn't get that either. So obviously he's not the best choice for a Vegeta for this team, but with his EZA he is a very solid unit overall, and he has very good links, so he could be useful on the team. Because he raises attack and defense for 3 turns, which can stack of course, he can be very good both offensively and defensively. But I do think if you have the Tech one with a similar or more level of dupe investment, the Tech one is probably better. So then we move on to Dark Mask King. Again, talked about him already before. He's just going to go super well with the Black Mask Saiyan, especially because he needs to have another Dragon Ball Heroes ally on the same turn for him to be the most effective. And then yeah, this guy will be a monster tank in Super Battle Road. So if you're running the rotation of him and the Black Mask Saiyan, or any other Dragon Ball Heroes unit that you have, like the Super Saiyan 3 Trunks, or the support Vegeta that we talked about at the beginning, he's going to be very good. Plus he heals you based on the damage that he deals, so he's really good. Then we have the Spirit Sword Trunks. Again, another powerful unit thanks to his EZA. Also another Orb Changer, which helps out for various other units as well as himself. So I think there's not really a huge amount to say about this guy. He's just very solid. Obviously, he picks up all of his defense on when you actually pick up the orbs, so he can still be a solid defensive option in slot 1, which then helps because when he super attacks, he raises super class allies attack by 30% for 1 turn. Now, obviously, the Vegeta family team does feature a few Vegetas who are extreme, but other than that, that is going to be most of the team. So that's going to work out really well as well. So overall, this guy probably wouldn't be as high on the tier list for this team for this stage, but I do think he is a decent option and was worthy of including here. So then we have God Vegeta. He is a fairly solid unit defensively when the RNG is on your side, because he has a high chance of guarding all attacks. Now obviously if that doesn't go off, then he does take quite a bit of damage, and then he doesn't get this last part of his passive, so he's not going to be stunning anyone. So honestly, I do think this guy falls more into like a last resort pick to fill a slot on the team. But again, he is a unit that has Over in a Flash as his primary key link, so if you're bringing Margin Vegetas or like Super Saiyan 3s, then he works well with them. Then we have Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta. You guys know he had to be on the list. He is one of the best units in the game for Super Battle Road, because you're never really ever going to go longer than 10 turns, which means he's going to take no damage for the entire event, even from a super attack with no items active. He does immense damage and has a high chance to stun, which is the 50-50. And then of course, if the enemy is already stunned, he gets a massive attack boost. So if you're bringing other stunning units or he gets an additional, he will do a crazy amount of damage. So then we have the Super Saiyan 3 Xeno Vegeta. He's more of an offensive unit than the Super Saiyan 3 Xeno Goku. His defense isn't as great, but the reason he's included is essentially because of his link potential with the STR Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta that we just mentioned. I do think one of the best defensive rotations you could run is the STR Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta and then the AGL Super Saiyan 3 Trunks. But if you don't have the Trunks and you have this guy, he can fit in pretty well on the team as well. He's definitely not going to be one of the best, but he's pretty good. And then I thought I'd include this guy. I really like using this guy as a support unit on the Vegeta family team in general, so he will be pretty good on this team. You're obviously going to have the 2 or more Vegeta family allies on the team, so he gets attack and defense 70%, plus giving 2 key and 30% to everybody else, including himself, and he raises allies attack for 1 turn on super attack. You probably won't get much use out of that, because I do think he's best used as a 3rd slot floating unit, but he is a very solid option for support for the team as well. So I think that covers pretty much everyone I wanted to talk about. Obviously there's a couple of LRs we didn't mention. The Prime Battle Vegeta is okay. Trunks is okay. A lot of these are units that you're kind of just going to fill in if you don't have some of the other ones. Blue Evolution Vegeta is okay, but his defense isn't amazing. Transforming Trunks is pretty good once he's transformed. And obviously if you are using items, you can shore up like the issues in his defense. I didn't put this Kid Trunks on there because you obviously can't run a Goten with him on the team, This Super Vegeta is pretty good, but he's best used in events where you fight against androids, which this is not one of. This Rage Trunks can be pretty good defensively as well. And then I think that's it in terms of the honourable mentions here. Obviously, we got to give a shout out to our boy Xeno Trunks, one of the only AoE units on the team, but he is, of course, absolute garbage. Easy a win. But yeah, there you go. So that is the top picks and the honourable mentions for Vegeta's team. As I said at the beginning, we skimmed over some units because there are just so many to talk about in this video. Like the Goku family one is already going to be one of the longer ones. So let me know any other units that you want to discuss more down in the comment section below. And obviously, if you have any further questions or need any more advice on building your teams, let us know down below. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the link to my Discord in the description as well. Feel free to join in the fun over there. And I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.